Hi, I'm RC Jim, and it's time for an update on our Decathlon build. Well, it's great having full-size plans to be able to work from. On none of my other electric conversions I've had that ability, but this one, it's been great. So, yeah, where do we start? That's our motor. Obviously, it's not a great big, thing such as that. But anyway, we've got a 2-degree offset. The firewall is offset 2 degrees. This is looking from the top. And so I've got a little center line marked there, and I've extended the center line down here. So I can put that right on the center line. And you will see that well, you can't see it from there. You can see that the engine is mounted off to the right because it's going to come back to the center. So this box is going to be mounted in the center of the plane, but the motor is mounted a little bit to the left, and it's going to angle to the right and end up right in the middle as it goes through the nose cone. So this enabled us to be able to set everything up and measure and work out how it needed to be. And then now I can double check, and I've got the square set to where it's right where the motor should be. So that's showing the center line of the motor on that 2-degree offset. And I can put the motor up here and double check my positioning here that I haven't scooted that. Okay, and get that in place, and voila. The shaft of the motor is pointed directly at the edge of that. So that's looking really, really good. I noted another thing, and that was in comparing my nose cone to what's on the plan here. This is perhaps just a little bit longer. I set that right where the front of the nose cone would be, and I get this position such that it's right on it. You can see that there's the firewall, and I've got a little bit to play with there. Now they do have this little line marked where they're planning on you cutting it, and of course there's a bit of a radius beyond there, but nonetheless I might be able to get a little bit longer than that. And then certainly even with that, the key thing is that this, they're angling it as well. So the motor ends up being off center, and this will end up being off center because it needs to be where the motor is. So of course it'll be in like that and a little bit off center to the right to match the motor. Okay, they are showing this cut straight with a plane, but not perpendicular as far as the mount is concerned. Okay, that's what's sort of throwing things off, which this does not show on the thing. They just have a straight line around the whole thing. But what they've done is they've cut a little bit on an angle to have it straight with the end of the plane. So the key thing, this end up here needs to be able to have enough meat on it to be able to get some screws into the firewall. But potentially we can get another 5 to 10 mil length if we need it in terms of moving the motor out. Now I've dimensioned this to be just precisely correct as far as what the plan says, and with a cowl position where the plan is. So we've got the cowl coming in right just beyond where this angle comes out to there. So if we extend it out, we'll have a little bit of an extension on the bolts that this attaches with. Okay, as far as our little attaching thing, we've got blind nuts all around, and we had to have a little bit, add some thickness in there to be able to have distance for the blind nuts to fit in there. I don't want things sticking out inside here, so we're trying to do as much as possible having those bolts ground down. The top one is not an issue. The battery is only going to be next to the bottom one, but we'd like to have that such that they're not sticking out. Of course, this battery tray will be fitting in there, you know, something like this, so it'll be keeping the battery away from them anyway, but nonetheless just trying to do our best to avoid any sort of issues or problems. So we've decided to bolt all of the things that sort of go to the existing structure. I've just had some issues with glue and things like that not sticking too well. For all this new plywood, not a problem. And you can see we've laminated 2 pieces of plywood to get something a bit heavier for the motor to attach onto. And then we've added some holes for cooling air to get in there. This one will be largely blocked. It'll be pretty well totally blocked if the motor is mounted directly against the firewall. And if we have it out 5 mil or so, then we'll have a little bit of air to come in there. So we're not depending on much getting through there, but we do want air to get through these guys here. Okay, let's move over then to the fuselage. So the fuselage, you can see we've made the opening for the battery tray. And while we got that out, you'll see we've also put a block of wood in there that's going to be right on the angle that the battery tray comes up to. So the battery tray can stick out through the fuselage and into our little box that we've made for the motor. And so that gets mounted up there like so, with the tray fitting inside it. Okay, so with these air holes up here, that's coming in over the top of the battery. That's why we didn't put holes in the bottom, because that's sort of covering up the bottom area. With the little block of wood in there, the idea is that I'm going to screw this in place into that block of wood, and then if I need to make adjustments along the way, I'll probably have a little access hole in the top. The real planes have got little access holes all over the place to get at things, so why not the model? We'll have a little access hole in the top so it can get it to screw down there. And we'll have different positions that this can be mounted in to be able to adjust for different size batteries. And that way we don't have to worry about trying to get in here and do something on the end. We just move the whole battery tray in and out. You can see I've added some padding in here, and my 5,000 milliamp hour 6S battery just fits in there perfect with that. It does allow, if something happened and you had to make it, you know, bigger, you could take out the pad and whatever. And if you have to add in some pad for a smaller battery, that will work fine as well. I added just a balsa with a grain going that way for the bottom of the instrument panel. The instrument panel was busting out when I bumped into it down here in the bottom, and so we just made that a little bit stronger, especially given that the battery is going to go in and out. We don't want that falling off. I noted from the instructions that with these things here, it's supposed to have 2 of them on there. So I'll be epoxying that into place. And of course we'll be putting the covering over top of here along with the little thing in the middle. We did have some issues with ply separations, and so first I tried just some Zap and I couldn't get it to stick on this stuff. Crazy. But anyway, I put in some epoxy and clamped it together, and that seems to have sorted out the ply separations. And we've also glued securely this back area here. I couldn't find the elevators. I'm sure my son made them because they're one of the very first things in the plan to be done. So I didn't have the proper pieces to be able to make it with, so I just grabbed some balsa that's the right thickness. And with regard to that, just use some baking paper to use as tracing paper over the plan to make it what it's supposed to be, then use that to do the cutting out. When I go to put them together, it wasn't fitting well here in the corner, and I noted that it wasn't square here, so I put that into the radial arm saw, and we've just barely skimmed along the end of it to get those nice and square on the ends. So that's where we're at right now. Still a lot of work to be done, but yeah, it's coming along well. Well, I trust that you've enjoyed this brief update. We'll keep them coming from time to time, little short things to let you know what's happening on this particular project and how it's going. If you got ideas, put them in the comments below. Well, if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. And of course, have a look at some of the other videos on our site. And in the meantime, enjoy your day and happy flying.